Hello and welcome to Tech Deals, NVIDIA's RTX 2060 launch, unboxing and overview. I have 6 different cards here to talk to you about today. The new mainstream 1080p gaming card from NVIDIA. For the past 2.5 years, the GTX 1060 has held that mantle, but those days are quickly coming to a close. If you want to play all the latest and greatest games, the latest AAA games at 1080p, high detail or better, 60 frames per second or better, then you've come to the right place. That is the ideal market for the RTX 2060. It will play games at 1440p to be sure, and it will play older games even at 4K. Those benchmarks will be coming soon. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that bell notification icon next to the subscribe button so you're notified when the future benchmarks come out. Now, I said this is an unboxing and overview video. I am not going to have tons of benchmarks for you in this video. Instead, I'm going to talk about the features of each of these different cards. We have 2 single fan cards, 2 dual fan cards, and 2 triple fan cards that are for different types of buyers. I'm going to talk about that and make some specific recommendations. I'm also going to talk to you about their performance in general terms, both compared to the previous generation. I have a GTX 760, 960 and 1060 here, as well as how they compare to the higher end cards both from current and previous generations. Now, prices of these cards start at $349. Some of these are a bit more because they got RGB and more fans and more features and factory overclocking, but $349 is where they start. Links down in the video description below to Amazon and Newegg. Compare prices. I will have all 6 of these cards linked down there as well as general links, but $349 is where they should start at, and then they go up to about $400. Beyond $400, you're starting to get into RTX 2070 pricing, and I will do benchmarks comparing these to the 2070 in future videos, but if you're spending over $400, you might want to look at the next step up. $350 is about where you should be at with these. Before we talk about individual cards, I first want to talk about RTX. RTX is commonly thought of as just ray tracing technology, but it's more than that. It's also the tensor cores, which are a different type of core than the CUDA cores, which have been on the previous generations of cards. In fact, going back nearly 10 years now to the 8000 series. The GTX name has been used for most of NVIDIA's cards for the past 10 years and was first introduced in 2005 for their top-end line at the time, but they've used many other names before that and since for some of their lower-end cards. This is a change. These are not GTX cards, they are RTX cards, but it's the same basic thing. GTX, 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 RTX. These have additional cores in them for ray tracing and additional cores in them called tensor cores, which can be used for a variety of things. They do support the ray tracing cores, but they can also be used by games and other applications for artificial intelligence, for additional calculations and compute beyond just the CUDA cores, the stream processors that have been on for a long, long time. Now, full disclosure, most games don't do anything with these cores right now. These cards have features which are not necessarily being used by games available today because they just came out. Over the next 2 to 3 years during these cards' lifetime, those features will start to get utilized. So buying one of these now, essentially your support will grow with time, whereas over time, the previous GTX cards will lose that support, or at least they'll lose the features available in newer games because they don't have those cores. If you currently are happy with your card, ray tracing technology and the tensor cores are not worth upgrading to today. You could skip this generation and wait for the next generation of cards and go to that if your current card is working for you. On the other hand, if you've been waiting for an upgrade, if your current card is perhaps slower than you'd like, if instead of a 10 series, you have a 900 or 700 series cards and you're itching for an upgrade, it's okay because the price of these in terms of regular game performance today is very competitive with the current 10 series cards. $350 buys you a card that is slightly faster than a GTX 1070 Ti. Those cards are running about $350. So you're essentially getting the ray tracing and tensor cores for free. It isn't cheaper than the previous gen, but you're getting extra features and future-proofing, so to speak, for the same current performance for the money. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'm gonna have a lot of benchmarks coming. Certainly, I'm gonna compare the 1060 to the 2060. I don't think most people need to make that upgrade today unless you really wanna keep up with the latest and greatest games. If you have a 1060, a 2070 or 2080 might make more sense in terms of a leap in performance. But if you have a 900 series or a 700 series, these are monstrously faster, and I'll do those comparisons coming soon as well. First up, we have the single fan cards. We have a Gigabyte ITX card, and then we have the EVGA black card. Each one has a single fan, and they're fairly short to fit into small mini tower cases or pre-builts such as this. This is an Acer Aspire T i5 6400 that I've covered numerous times on my channel. I've done an upgrade video where I've put an SSD into it. I've put a power supply into it. In fact, this power supply right here is already in here. It provides the 8-pin PCI Express power connector, not provided by many pre-builts, necessary to install one of these cards, and either of these would fit easily within the confined space of a system like this, either Acer, Dell, Lenovo, HP, etc. If you don't have a confined space, if you don't have a system like this or a small mini tower case, if you've got a mid tower case or full tower case, if you've got the room, I would recommend skipping the single fan cards and going to a dual fan card or maybe even a triple fan card, which we'll pull out in a second. But for confined space, these will work very, very nicely. I've now turned the case around to the side so you can see inside of it. Up here you can see the black power supply replaced because it comes with a cheap silver one, that's what they do. And then you can see that there's a video card in there. Now that's actually not one of the new RTX cards. That's what I put in here previously. That is a Galax GTX 1050 Ti, which is a nice card, but it is not even remotely close to the performance of these things. So we'll take a look at that in the future in terms of benchmarking. Next up, we have the dual fan cards. I have one from ZOTAC and one from MSI here, but you can also get these from EVGA, Gigabyte, and Asus as well. If you have the room for it, I would start at the dual fan models. Lower temperatures, a little bit higher clock speeds, and less noise compared to the single fan cards. And you don't even need a huge case to fit them either. Right here, this is a Corsair Spec 04 mini tower case. I've previously done a build you can see here in this case, and there is currently a GTX 1070 Ti dual fan card currently installed, no space issues whatsoever, with a custom build like this as opposed to a pre-built from Acer, HP, etc. And ironically, a GTX 1070 Ti is also about the same performance as these cards. So if you were previously considering that level of performance for about $350, why buy a 2.5-year-old card when you can get the next generation of technology with slightly better performance for the same money? Last but certainly not least, we have the triple fan cards. I have two here, one from Gigabyte and one from Asus, the ROG Strix. These things are beasts. They have higher out-of-the-box clock speeds than the other cards do, but they do come with a higher price tag. They're about 150 megahertz faster. That will translate into a little bit more performance. We'll show you that in benchmarks. But they also will run cooler and quieter and have higher potential manual overclocking beyond those. We'll test that as well in a future video. These are appropriate if you have something awesome like this Cooler Master H500 mid-tower case. Look at all the space available in there. Currently, this is a 2-fan card, and there's space for days in here. If you have something like this, you absolutely should go for one of these. This Gigabyte card is only $30 more expensive than the single fan card. It's 150 megahertz faster, it'll be quieter, it'll be cooler, and in a case like this or something similar to it, you'll have no issues with fitting it in place. Now the Asus ROG Strix is $40 more expensive than the Gigabyte and $70 more expensive than the single fan cards. That is a heck of a markup. It is the fastest card on the table, but that price tag really makes it expensive. Who should buy the Asus ROG Strix? Simple. Somebody who wants the performance of the Gigabyte but already has an Asus build. If you have an Asus motherboard and you use the RGB software, the Aura Sync software that Asus uses, and you want the RGB on the video card to match, save yourself a headache, spend the $40 price difference between these, get the card that matches your motherboard, your life will be easier. If you don't care about the RGB, if all you care about is price to performance, the Gigabyte is a much better value for the money. This computer here is a Ryzen 5 2600. I did this build last year on my channel. The base configuration is $800, or with all the RGB in it, it was $1,000. It really is beautiful, and if you want the RGB, go check that out. If you have a system similar to this, something maybe you've upgraded, but you have an older video card in it, perhaps you have the 200 or 300 series from AMD, the R9 380 or 280X. Perhaps you have a 760 or maybe even a GTX 770 from NVIDIA or a 960, then one of these would be an excellent upgrade to go with your new CPU, and it will be double the performance, if not triple the performance, to some of those older cards. So that's been the overview of the RTX 2060. Now we're going to open these things and show them to you. For the first time ever on my channel, I'm recording with two cameras. You'll see I'll put the overhead shot right here. I have a camera overhead so that you can see me open each of these, and I can point out the features and you get a better view of them than you can actually get when I just show them to you on the camera. So let me know in the comment section down below how much you like this format with me opening the boxes and you seeing a shot overhead. Maybe in the future we'll have 3 cameras. We're going to start off with the smallest, least expensive card. This is the Black Edition. It's the single fan EVGA card, $349. There are 3 versions of this. The top end version has 2 fans and is the Ultra UC, I believe? XC, Ultra XC. So we are going to open this. Because this is my first time doing this on 2 cameras, it'll be interesting to remember to film the overhead as well. So I'll do this and slide it out. Okay, that doesn't slide out. Maybe we'll do it this way. I have mentioned packaging many times in my unboxing videos. This is a bubble envelope. Attention, yes. Well, let's see what it looks like inside, shall we? We'll take that out. More foam. Is there anything else in this box? There is. Oh, wait. GeForce RTX installation. Here, I'll hold this up for the camera overhead so I can do a close-up shot of it. Put the video card in your computer, plug the 8-pin PCI Express power connector in, install the drivers. It's like any other video card. What do we have here? This is the first, I've opened a lot of video cards on my channel. I've never seen an EVGA wrapped this way. This is a piece of foam wrapped around the card with a piece of tape holding it together. Really, EVGA? That's kind of cheap. It doesn't matter if it's protected and it arrives, it works. But taking that piece of tape off, we have a video card in a bag that says EVGA on it. Fair enough. So we will open this, and now I don't have the 2-fan version. It'll be interesting to see how well the 2-fan version is packaged compared to this. Plastic peel time. I think I'll do this for the overhead camera. Maybe zoom in and put it over here. Let's try putting this flat on the table and I'll peel it off that way. That was a rogue suggestion, by the way. She is so wise. Can I get it in one piece? Oh, it doesn't want to come off here. Oh, it's almost coming off. Come on, there we go. Oh, nope, I tore it. It's not just peeling. It's can you get the whole thing in one go. What's interesting is when I did the 2080 unboxing video, I had some comments in the comment section where people were like, thank you so much for showing the plastic peels. And then I had other people who said, why are you wasting our time with plastic peels? Well, people seem to like them. So this doesn't want to come off in one piece. It's almost, but not quite. Well, that's almost, we'll see. There we go. Trying. There we go. Great, shiny black piano plastic. Oh, still one piece. Oh, I broke it. Now, there we go. One piece down here. I mean, if you missed a small piece like this, would it be the end of the world? Probably not. I can't get into it with my fingers. There we go. I will put this in my handy dandy trash can. And there we've got a video card. Wow, look, holy smokes. Now this is pretty cool. The EVGA did something nice here, and I wish they'd made the clock speeds a bit higher considering that this is a triple slot card. This is actually thicker. The 2-fan version of the card is only a dual slot card, so why didn't they make them both high clock speeds? I don't know. You've got the single 8-pin PCI Express power connector here. You can see the XC logo. This is a thicker radiator than you would typically find on a card like this. Look at the size of that thing. That's what Wedge Antilles said before he attacked the Death Star. You have got a single dual link DVI cable here, a single HDMI 2.0, and a single DisplayPort 1.4. It's interesting that this does not provide enough connectors to run like triple 4K monitors, which the previous generation did. That's interesting. You've got the single fan there. You can see the heat pipes running through here. It's a simple card, $350. This is the new standard for 1080p high detail gaming. If I had any complaint as I've taken a closer look at this, besides the fact that I think it should have more video out ports, is no backplate. For $350, I think you can provide a backplate EVGA. It's not a huge deal, but considering the card installs in your PC like this, and this is the part that you actually see, I don't know. I think they could have sprung for one. Next up, we have the Gigabyte single fan card. This is the only brand that I actually have two of from one company, the triple fan card, which we'll get to in a minute. 170 millimeter size. This is considered an ITX card. If you're building a small breadbox computer, this might very well be what you want. And it is a very small box indeed. I have a sneaking suspicion the interior packaging is not overly fancy. Let's open this up, shall we? 90 millimeter fan, and it is a card in a cardboard box in an anti-static bag. Not a crime, but not complicated. What else is in here? We'll take this out. Oh, that just folds forward. There is a graphics quick start guide. There is an Oris driver CD, which frankly makes for a nice coaster. That's pretty simple packaging. So we'll just close that. So far, I have to say it's not the most exciting thing in the world, but it's taking cards out of packaging. No backplate on this card as well that you can see here. Again, $350. It is an entry-level card going into a mini ITX system or something otherwise compact. No plastic to peel off, which is kind of interesting. Same 8-pin PCI Express power connector right here. You can see the exposed copper heat pipes. I suspect it's similar to the EVGA, although I do have to say it is a dual slot card that's either a pro or a con, depending upon your preference. The EVGA is a triple slot card with a thicker radiator on it, so it might be cooler running. When I get all these benchmarked and tested, I will have temps, I will have noise, so we'll be able to tell whether or not that makes a difference or not. Single fan connector along the bottom. I will give Gigabyte credit for this. I am very, very happy to see this. Take a look at these ports. There are 3 display ports. You could run 3 4K monitors, DisplayPort, DisplayPort, DisplayPort. If you want to run a triple monitor configuration, if you're maybe a content creator as well as a gamer, perhaps you have additional monitors, perhaps you're a streamer and you want high resolution monitors or high refresh rate monitors. If you, for example, want to run 3 1080p 240 hertz SUS monitors, for example, you're going to want 3 display ports, which is very nice. Although frankly, if you're doing that, you might want more graphics card. And then you've got a single HDMI 2.0 port as well. No plastic to peel, just the standard protector along the bottom. And as you can see here, it's just a 2-slot card. I've now placed the 2 single fan cards side by side so you can get a better idea of what they look like. The EVGA card is longer, but not as tall. In order to make it work, the Gigabyte card with the thinner cooler, notice it's taller. You've got this extension that goes above where the PCI Express slot ends. So if you have a case that has no additional Z depth, basically height on the card, then the Gigabyte may cause you some issues. Notice the EVGA basically is flush. It's close to flush. It's not exactly flush. But lengthwise, I'll hold them here together, you can see the EVGA is longer. The EVGA is also much thicker, 50% thicker to be exact. Whether that's a good thing or not depends on your personal taste. That cooler is, well, it looks bigger on the EVGA. We'll have to find out in testing whether it actually is. And of course, I'll turn them back over so you can see them side by side. They're black PCBs. What do you expect? Now that we have done the single fan cards, let's move on to the dual fan cards. Here we have the ZOTAC dual fan card, also $349, just like the single fans, but hopefully a nicer cooler and more cooling. So we will open this one up. You can see right on the back, super compact, fits 99% of systems. Depends on how you're counting, I suppose. This actually will fit, most likely, a number of pre-builts. Won't fit all of them though. Check the measurements. We'll slide that out and, oh, the ZOTAC logo is on the box. Very nice. Opening it up, what do we have inside? Typical ZOTAC packaging. I have seen this many, many times. In fact, the Gigabyte packaging was pretty typical. The EVGA is weird. That's the first time I've seen that. But this is totally ZOTAC right here. We have a ZOTAC envelope here, which inside I'm sure contains, if I can pull it out. No, it does not. They did not include a driver CD. Good on you, ZOTAC. What do we have here? Oh, great, marketing materials. Quick installation guide. Make sure to have the latest drivers installed. The latest GeForce drivers are available at GeForce.com. That's exactly how it works. The reason I say this is typical ZOTAC is this cardboard cutout here, this fixed cardboard. This is in like every ZOTAC card I've ever opened, or most of them anyway. And then we have I really like this. This is a bubble anti-static bag as opposed to the cheap thin bags. You know, okay, it's a bag, you're gonna take it out. It's not a huge deal, but it is nice. And now we just have to take it out. It's a video card, I know. One of the reasons I do these unboxings, partly because I think some of you might have fun watching them just from an entertainment point of view, is it gives you a chance to know what to expect. How well are they packed? What comes in the box? You know, how big are they relative in size? And that is nice custom packaging. I mean, it's just appearance. I doubt any of this plastic does anything. This looks like it might light up here. We'll see that when we do our testing. It says GeForce RTX right here. The 8-pin PCI Express power connector is recessed into this hole here. That's a good thing because if you look, you'll notice that this card, like the Gigabyte, is taller than the PCI Express slot. If you are Z depth limited, height limited in how tall of a card you can have, I'm gonna turn it over here, you can see how recessed the power connector is. This is important because you can put the power cable in here and then either get an L-shaped, they make curved power cables, or depending upon the thickness of your cables, you can put it in and simply bend it over rather than having the power connector up at the top. So that does help with some fitment issues if you're limited in height. We have a back plate. It says live to game, and they have the positioning of it correct because this is actually how the card is going to go in. This part faces towards you, and so you'll actually be able to see the live to game. There's a little bit of exposure here where the chip is. You've got a nice ZOTAC logo here. This looks much, in my personal opinion, looks are subjective, much nicer than those exposed printed circuit boards on the EVGA and the Gigabyte. And this is the same price. So the shroud is nicer. We have two nice fans right here. Whether or not it runs cooler or quieter, we won't know until we do our tests. But for $349, I like it. Interesting that it does not come with a protector for the golden fingers, the part that you actually plug into the PCI Express slot. That's interesting right there that you don't have that, but not a big deal. There's also No plug connectors here, but the EVGA didn't have them either, only Gigabyte did. 3 DisplayPort 1.4s and 1 HDMI 2. So again, you could absolutely run triple monitors, either high refresh rate or 4K. I like it. Nice card. For the MSRP price of $349, it looks good so far. We'll have to see how it does in testing. Our second dual fan card is the MSI Ventus. This is the first one of this particular model from MSI that I've ever taken a look at. I've done many of the Armor, many of the Gaming X Trios, but I've never done a Ventus. What's the difference? I don't know, but I do know this. It is the Overclocked edition, and this was $349. So it was the same price as all the other reference cards. That might very well be a deal, especially considering the size. This is also the only card that comes in plastic wrap that we actually have to cut off. And with the plastic wrap removed, I will put that in my trash bin. The plus side is there's nothing to cut away. We can simply lift the tabs off. How about we turn that around so it's right side up? I may have to flip this left and right as I do it towards me and towards you a couple times. The beauty of edit. We'll take those off. See what this looks like. Oh, no, I can feel that. Actually, we need to do it this way. Just by sticking my fingers in the box, I could tell. There we go. Because it's not sealed on one end. With a piece of foam removed, oh, very nice. We have the MSI logo right here, and it's just printed in black. Inside of here, I'm sure, are very important documents. What are we gonna find in here? Really? Is that all that? MSI, I love you, but come on. You went to the trouble to print this nice thing, and the only thing in here is the MSI graphics quick user guide that no one is ever going to look at. Okay, maybe somebody. How many? I gotta unfold this. I have no words, except I do. There's a lot of words right here. Look. Okay, step one, take the cover off of your case, unscrew the place where the card goes, put the card in, click the lock thing in, which actually happens automatically, screw the card in, plug the power in, put the case on, and plug it into your monitor. You know, there's somebody somewhere who probably needs to see that in pictogram form. If I was to be completely blunt, if you can't figure out how to install this, maybe you should have somebody else. This is really simple, folks. I don't know what to tell you. Auxiliary tools. There's a tool chart, a package content guide. I don't know what to say. What does the other side look like? Hardware installation. That's the same thing, but in 27 more languages. What do we have here? English, Dutch, French. I don't even know what those languages are. Spanish, Portuguese, Polish, Netherlands, Slovenia, Romania, Italian. Is it bad that I don't know what half of these languages are? Put down in the comments below if you recognize. Put down in the comments below Norsk, Tig, Vet. And then there's a half a dozen languages in those funny squiggly line things used in like China and Japan that I don't recognize. One's probably Vietnamese or something that I don't. Why am I commenting about this? I don't know. This is supposed to be fun, folks. I'm going to do something very, very important with this. That's going in my trash bin. And the lovely MSI card can go with it because, let's be honest, it's just recycling material. Thank you for choosing your MSI product. This product was made with great precision. Yes, yes, yes. Please register. My lovely wife is looking at me over there next to the camera, rolling her eyes, thinking I'm being a little bit dramatic. It's a video card. I mean, I don't know. Okay, with the paperwork out of the way, here's what you want to see. I know it's a video card in a box. We have form-fitting foam this time instead of cardboard or bubble envelopes. This is by far the heaviest card so far. Of course, obviously watching this on camera, you can't tell this. This is definitely the heaviest card, much more so than the ZOTAC. It feels very substantial. Whether or not it is more substantial, let's find out. Let's take it out of the packaging. That's very nice looking. I have to say, appearances can be, subjective, and looking on a screen on YouTube, looking at pictures on websites, you can only tell so much. This looks nice. It is just plastic. If you're curious, this is not metal here. Yeah, that's just plastic, but it's nice looking plastic. I like the fact that the golden fingers come with protection. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and leave that protection on because until I'm going to put it in the computer. It does come with protection for these ports, but I'll take them off so that you can see them. I don't know if the protection does anything, but there we go. Just like the last card, we have 3 display ports and 1 HDMI 2.0, so you could certainly support a whole bunch of monitors with this. And it's a 2-slot card, just like the ZOTAC. What's interesting is this is a custom PCB because they raised up the 8-pin PCI Express power connector. On the ZOTAC, it's recessed because if you notice, the card comes up above the PCI Express power connector, above the PCI Express slot, I should say. But because of where this is, your power plug is going to extend even further. So if you have a case with Z-depth issues, this might not be the perfect card, but if you've got plenty of room, it's certainly no big deal. I like this. A full back plate, and it's positioned correctly. I had it right the first time. This is how your card's going to be in the PC facing that way, and so the MSI logo is correct towards you, and it is a full coverage plate. It is not, however, metal. That is plastic, which might just be an insulator. It'll be interesting to see the temperatures of this because the cooler is heavier than the ZOTAC, but it's got plastic on the back rather than metal. I don't know. With the cards side by side, you can see they both go above the PCI Express slot here. The ZOTAC actually looks like it may go a little bit further up than the MSI does, but again, remember, the power connectors are recessed. Let me turn both of these over for you, and you can see there's a recession here for the ZOTAC card, but there is not on the MSI Ventus. Now, this is the kind of thing that is easy to miss when you're just looking at product detail pages on Amazon or Newegg. So hopefully you find this useful, informative, or perhaps amusing. Now, as I said before, this is metal. The backplate on the ZOTAC card, that's real metal. The backplate on the MSI card, that's plastic. The MSI card is also longer in terms of length than the ZOTAC card. The width is about the same. They're both dual width cards, and you can see here, they've basically got the same port configuration. That brings us to our first triple fan card and our second gigabyte of the opening. When I was picking out these cards, I thought about getting 3 gigabytes, the 1, 2, and 3 fan cards, but at some point, then you leave something else out, the MSI or the ZOTAC, and I wanted to include as many brands as possible, so we skipped the second one. This, as I said before, has the highest clock speed of any of the cards except for the Overclocked Strix, but it's a lot more expensive. This may very well be the deal. At the time I filmed this video, it was $379. It's a few dollars more, but not too much more. Extra cooling. I am looking forward to seeing the difference between this and the single fan. Overclock edition. I know, it's exciting. So we'll open this up and slide it out. And it says Gigabyte on the box. Opening this up, what do we have inside? We have much nicer packaging. Much nicer packaging than the single fan card. Hey, for 30 bucks more, you get nicer packaging. And they do their typical box thing. Gigabyte does this a lot. You can see the thickness of the box right here. Inside this is almost certainly going to be, yep, there we go. We have the graphics quick start guide, and we have a coffee coaster. I know it's a driver CD. Go download the drivers from NVIDIA.com. They went to the trouble to make a cardboard box that is folded, and all it is in there. It's a very nice cardboard box, but yeah. And then we have form-fitting foam and then the card in an anti-static bag. Take that out. And we will just take this out. And we have a graphics card, a triple fan card. What's interesting is these fans appear to be smaller. I think they are smaller than the single fan card. I'll grab that in a second and we'll compare. Height-wise, it's also shorter. This is not as tall as the single fan card. Single 8-pin connector. And I am happy to say that this is a custom printed circuit board because the power connector is at the end. This is an important point. I noticed when I was looking at the EVGA, I realize I'm talking about another one, but when I was looking at the EVGA 2-fan card, the Ultra XC, the power connector is in the middle because it's not a custom printed circuit board. They just use the standard and put an extender on it. And so your power connector is halfway down the card. That is incredibly annoying in my opinion. I think it's much better to have it over here at the end. So I'm very happy to see that Gigabyte did it that way. This, I think for a lot of people, this is the card to buy. I will test it. We will have to do, benchmarks and temperatures and noise. But with the positioning of the 8-pin connector here, the fact that it is fairly flush with the PCI Express slot itself, the fact that it is 2 slots thick, making it, it doesn't obstruct any other cards you might have added. And it's got 3 fans, which it's worth noting that for noise reasons, the center fan turns in the opposite direction of the 2 outside fans. So these fans spin in this direction, and this one spins opposite to it. Counterclockwise or clockwise, either way, that's pretty nice. I also like the fact that Gigabyte has done away with the orange on their cards. In the previous generation, the 10 series, some of their cards had fixed orange plastic on the cards, and it just really ruins your color scheme. They've switched to gray plastic, which I'm happy to see. There is also some RGB on here as well. Not much, but the Gigabyte logo on the top here is RGB, and it's controllable with software. If you have a Gigabyte board, you run the Gigabyte RGB software, you can sync this RGB to your motherboard, your RAM, and your other RGB in your system. That's pretty nice. It is not a very heavy card. Even though it's a triple fan, even though it is a longer card, I have to say, just holding it, it doesn't feel as heavy as it looks. So in terms of cooling performance, we'll have to see, but it is clocked 150 megahertz faster out of the box than the single fan card is. So with no overclocking, you do get a nice boost. And it has a backplate, and it's a metal backplate. I am very pleased to say that that is an actual, is that metal? It feels like metal. It's very thin metal, but there's no backplate at all on the single fan card. So if appearance and looks matters to you, that's pretty nice. This is also important, ports. This has a full suite of ports on it. 3 DisplayPort 1.4s and 1 HDMI 2 for all your monitor needs. Very nice. Last but certainly not least, we have the ASUS ROG Strix Factory Overclocked RTX 2060. It is important to note there are 2 versions of this card. There is an overclocked version and a stock clock version. They look identical except this overclocked logo here on the top of the box and then the OC logo right here on the front, and the product name is slightly different. On the day I was filming this video, the overclocked, the version I have right here, was $5 more than the non-overclocked version. Why in the world would you buy the non-factory overclocked version? I have absolutely no idea. But it was $415 for the stock clocked ROG Strix, or $420 for the overclocked. I'm making you aware of it because it could be very easy to accidentally buy the wrong one, thinking, well, it's $5 less. Oh man, I found a deal. No, you really didn't actually. Same cooler, but this is actually guaranteed to run at the faster speed, whereas the non-factory overclocked version is not. So just be aware of that. This box is the heaviest out of all of them so far. I have not opened this up yet, if I can open it without tearing it. I have not opened this box up yet, but just lifting it, it is heavier than the Gigabyte box was. and definitely heavier than any of the others. This is expensive. It is an important point to note. I said this earlier in the video. This is creeping into the price point of the RTX 2070s, which are faster. A stock RTX 2070 should be faster than this. But then again, a $500 RTX 2070 isn't going to be an ASUS ROG Strix. Those are closer to $600. So if you want the ROG Strix, kind of had to turn it on its end. If you like the branding, the cooler, the RGB, if you like the way the card looks, spend some extra money. It's $40 more expensive than the Gigabyte and a bunch more expensive than the cheap ones. But it sure does look nice, doesn't it? I mean, that is, quality products come in quality packaging. Or cheap products come in expensive packaging to make them look nicer than they are. I don't know, one of the two. We will open that up. Fancy, fancy, fancy. If I seem enamored by the packaging, I'm not. I just appreciate it. Speed setup. This is actually, oh, there we go. We have a coaster. The ROG Strix gaming graphics card. Now, I usually use MSI Afterburner's tool to both benchmark as well as overclock the card. And you can absolutely overclock this using MSI Afterburner. But ASUS does have their Tweak 2 software. They have their own overclocking program you can use as well. And this guide is actually nicer than the little pamphlets in the other one. So I mean, they spent an extra 20 cents on that. That's nice. We take the foam off, and inside we find a video card in an antistatic bag in form-fitting foam, just like all the others. But wait, there's more. We have Republic of Gamers Velcro straps for cable management. It's a nice touch. Taking the card out of the box. Oh, this is heavy. They really do. Wow. Notice, I should get a scale and weigh these. That is noticeably. What's interesting is ASUS, they do their bags from the bottom. I don't know why. That's a ROG Strix cool. Wow. That is, if you want the best, if you want the coolest, the fastest running, the fastest overclocking card. Oh, wait, hang on, plastic. This is interesting. The only other card that had plastic to peel was the EVGA. None of the other cards did. But can I get it in way? Yeah, this is pretty flat. I should, if I can't get this in one go, I should give up my plastic peeling career. Assuming I can get it started. There we go. Yeah, that's easy enough. Well, I say it's easy enough. There we go. First try. And that is definitely metal. That is definitely metal, and it's got a nice design. It's got, is this RGB? This might be RGB. I will have to double check that. The 1060 ASUS ROG Strix was not RGB on the back. The 1070 and 1080 were. I actually said like 2 years ago in a video that all three of them did because I had the 1070 and I didn't have the 1060. That was my bad. I did later get it and then correct it in a follow-up video, but it happened. So this is recessed. It looks like it should light up, but I don't want to say it does until we test it. Now, there are some cool features on this that you're not going to find on the other cards. If you take a look here on the end, you're going to see some fan headers. Hopefully the overhead camera focuses because how long this card is. You've got two 4-pin headers right here, and you've got an RGB header. Interesting. I think that's an RGB header. The two fan headers are interesting. ASUS does this on some of their nice cards. If you, for example, want to plug your two front panel fans for your case, your computer case, instead of plugging them into the motherboard, plug them into the video card. And here's why. When do you really need good cooling in your computer? Do you need it all the time? Do you need it when your CPU is running? Or do you need it when your big, huge graphics card is running? The idea is your graphics card, when you're playing a game and you're producing tons of heat in the case, the graphics card will spin up your front two fans and increase their airflow, thus cooling off the card and making your system run better. But your gaming explosions are going off or you're wearing headphones, it doesn't matter. When you're not gaming and the card's at idle, it'll slow your front fans down. You can manage all this, of course, using your motherboard fan headers. But the fact that they put fan headers right on the card, that's definitely a step up over the others. You will also see, as I bring the card this way, it's not a triple slot card, but it's more than 2 slots. It's like 2.5. The shroud, the plastic shroud, comes out a bit further. The metal is definitely, I'll pull out the other one here, the Gigabyte here in a second. It's definitely thicker, it's definitely heavier than that is for sure. It also has a protective piece of metal on the top. That is nice. That is metal here, metal on the back. 1 8-pin and 1 6-pin PCI Express power connector. All the other cards are a single 8-pin only. If you're extreme overclocking, if you want to tune it to the max and you want to make sure that power delivery is not an issue, you have 2 power connectors. Do I think that's really a big deal with what this card is rated at? No. If you have a decent power supply, which you should for something like this, if you've got, say, a 500, 600 watt, at least 80 plus bronze or better rated power supply, then you should have no issue with getting enough power in a single connector. But this removes all doubt. So it's a nice touch. You've got the Republic of Gamers logo right here. Oh, there's one more piece of plastic. Can we peel that? If I get there we go, that was pretty simple. So you've got the RGB right there. You've got the GeForce RTX logo here, but this is not RGB. That's metal, actually. This is plastic. This whole front shroud is plastic, and you've got the 3 fans, which all turn in the same direction. And then you've got RGB lights right here. In fact, I could see them right through here. So you've got RGB lights here on the top, RGB lights here on the bottom, and then the RGB Republic of Gamers logo on the top. And I think, I'm going to go double check this, but I think this looks like it's RGB as well, so that's nice. That's a nice improvement over the 10 series. As far as ports, let me lift it up here. Well, this is a nice touch. The back of the card is black. This is the only card that has black. All the rest of them are silver. So the back here is black, and here's another interesting change. 2 DisplayPort outputs, 2 HDMI 2.0 ports. Now you might say, well, why would you want that? Why wouldn't you want 3 DisplayPorts? It depends. Are you doing virtual reality? VR headsets need an HDMI port to plug into. Your monitor or television might also be HDMI. Rather than messing around with adapters and converters, you can plug your headset, your headset-mounted display into one and your monitor into another, which is a nice touch. I'm genuinely surprised. Pictures on the internet do not do this justice. Looking at the Gigabyte card, when I first took it out, I'm like, oh, that's nice. It's long. It looks great. It's got the plastic on it. It's fine. Why would anybody buy the Asus ROG Strix? Putting them side by side, these are not the same card. Now, you might very well look at this and go, I don't think the Asus is worth $40 more than the Gigabyte. That's fine. That's a personal choice. However, to anybody who says that they're both the same card, they're both 3 fans, they're both the RTX 2060, this is just price gouging on Asus's part. No, it's not. Now, I don't have a scale that can accurately measure to the ounce at the moment. I'm going to get one because I think it would be useful information. These are not the same card. The weight difference on the ROG Strix is noticeable. And as I look at the cooler, I don't know if the overhead camera is going to pick up the differences. I almost kind of want to take off the middle fans. The cooling shrouds inside, the metal fins inside the card are not the same thickness. The ROG Strix has far more fins, a tighter fin density inside. These are less dense. There's a little bit more density over here. There's like 3 different sections on the Gigabyte, whereas the Asus is a tight fit all the way across. In terms of thickness, well, you can see for yourself there. I mean, the Asus ROG Strix is clearly a thicker card. The cooler is thicker. The plastic shroud here on the Gigabyte goes in, so the cooler is only about this thick on the Gigabyte, whereas the ROG Strix may very well have twice the radiator on it. And 1, 2, 3, 4, is that 5 heat pipes? The ROG Strix has 5 heat pipes. In fact, you can see them right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I don't know if the camera will get them because I'm not looking at the camera screen at the moment, but they run all the way across, and it looks like they're connected on both ends as well, and then it loops back here. That is very nice. Here, let me turn them this way. The Gigabyte card has, interesting, the Gigabyte card has 2. I am very curious to see temperatures on this and overclocking. I'm not going to push every card to the max in overclocking because frankly, if you care about overclocking, you're not buying the single fan cards. That's my opinion. Tell me in the comments below if you disagree with me. These 2 cards deserve to be pushed. The 5 heat pipes versus 2 heat pipes, you don't appreciate this until the cards are side by side. You really do not. You can see the height difference right here as well. I was all excited about the Gigabyte until I put it next to the Asus ROG Strix. Do you have an extra $40? Do you want a bigger, thicker, heavier, much better heat piped card with better RGB and a better overclock setting? These are both 1830 megahertz out of the box, but this has an overclock setting, the ROG Strix, to 1860. And I have a feeling it's going to win the overclocking game. Whether that's worth the money, there's a lot of little things here. That's a personal choice. The RGB, the thicker cooler, the higher potential clocks, the port design with the 2 HDMI ports. These are all little pieces that add up that you may very well look at and go, yeah, sure, 40 bucks, why not? That's great. Or you might say, I don't care about any of that. I just want to play some games and I just want something that fits easily. It's not too big and heavy and does the job. We will find out in a future video. 6 cards unboxed, 6 cards compared in terms of features, size. I have to say, what I expected when I started to open these and what I came across here is not what I expected. There's certain things I like about each card, there's certain things I don't. In terms of the single fan card, my initial impression is that the EVGA is nicer. They're the same price. However, you might not have space for this larger card, in which case you'll need to go with the Gigabyte. But just in terms of cooler size, the EVGA appears to be a better deal, except it's interesting. It has a DVI port. Now, maybe you want a DVI port, and if you do, well, then that's a no-brainer. It's got a DVI port, but it only has 2 other digital ports. For the 2 middle cards, I covered those as to whether or not you prefer the recessed power connector. Does the plastic backplate bother you? Do you prefer a brand? I suspect they're both fine. And then on the triple fan cards, I already said everything there is to say. I like the Gigabyte. I now love the Asus ROG Strix. It's expensive, but it's very, very nice. This has been the overview and unboxing of the RTX 2060 series. Many, many benchmarks coming up soon. All of these cards will be temperature tested and overclock tested. I'll definitely push the 2 3-fan cards a lot. I will compare them to the previous gen cards, the 1060, 960, and 760. I'll even maybe throw in a few comparisons with some other cards as well, previous gens of AMD cards if you'd like to consider upgrading. I will also do another video where I compare these against the 2070 and 2080 and do a value analysis to see, should you just buy a 2060 or is the 70 and 80 models worth the extra money? Like this video if you like it, share it with your friends if you loved it. Remember to subscribe to my channel with that big, huge red button directly below. Questions, comments, thoughts, feedback, suggestions, that's what the comment section is for. Links in the video description, links to all of these cards, links to a couple other videos of mine will be down in the description below. And then be sure to hit that bell notification icon next to the subscribe button if you'd like to be notified when those benchmark videos come out, because YouTube does not send out notifications unless the bell notification icon has been checked. One more final point. If you are a member of the Tech Deal Nation and a supporter of this channel, there are 5 current ways to support. Linked down in the bottom of the video description below will be a link to the Tech Deals Discord. I will be posting some early results as I get them over on the Tech Deals Discord. The easiest and quickest way to support is to join Floatplane. Linked in the description below is the link to Floatplane. Floatplane is currently $3 per month, and you get early access to videos, early access exclusive content, no YouTube ads. And did I mention it's only $3 a month? It directly supports this channel, and you'll give you access to the Tech Deals Discord as well, where I'll be posting some of the early results here. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in a future video here.